Okay,
like to train it
so
all
in this
the
panel
activities that
we are
have
going
in
to
the-
talk about something that was very hyped in the past 2 years. It's the Metaverse, and today we are trying to figure out how to really get ready for live casinos in the Metaverse, because the technology is here, but maybe there were some technological challenges, some regulatory challenges, and frankly some challenges where a vision meets reality. So we are going to start with the panelists, each introducing themselves, starting with Sean, ending with Valentina. My name is Feres, and I'm going to be the moderator. So let's get right to it.
Hi everyone, my name's Sean. I'm the CVO of Metaverse Architects and the co-founder. I ended up here by surprise. Michael was going to speak, but it's awesome to be here and to talk about this topic. It's a very interesting time to talk about 3D immersive spaces and live casinos.
Hi, my name is Sabine, and I'm the head of business development at Fun Token, which is a token for the gaming industry. And we also are operators, so we also have crypto casinos and a crypto peer-to-peer sports betting platform. So it's an exciting topic for us, and I'm happy to be here.
My name is Razvan Nemes. I'm a senior manager within digital consulting at KPMG. Yes, the audit firm, you heard correctly. We are actually one of the, we were recognized as one of the leaders in the metaverse space by MarketWatch for the last year or so, where we've been working with high brands, luxury brands, and companies worldwide to build new, better experiences across multiple sectors and industries, iGaming being obviously one of the main use cases that actually are tangible and make sense from an economic and financial perspective.
Hi, Valentina here. Good afternoon. I'm marketing director at The Weekend, part of the Happy Hour group, where with an amazing team, we support strategically the marketing side of successful online operators who are our partners. So I take care of the marketing side of things.
So the thing about Metaverse is it's a bit like sex with teenagers. It's confusing and it's rarely done well. So let's create some clarity before we go really into the discussion. Valentina, what is your understanding of the term Metaverse?
Yes. So what the Metaverse is about? I believe that Metaverse is a collective space where several technologies are converging together and are interconnected. Such technologies such as virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. So I believe the closest version to the Metaverse, the way I see it, is Second Life, is a virtual, a parallel world, a twin world, where people can socialize, entertain themselves, play, create new spaces. So yes, it's not far from the vision that Neil Stevenson had in his romance, Snow Crash, where 250 million of avatars were actually controlled by humans. I hope it's not going to happen the opposite thing, where humans are controlled by avatars. But yes, it's this interactive and parallel worlds where we are socializing and building experiences together.
I absolutely agree, and if I may build it, I love that you called it a space, and because I see a lot of people calling it a technology. The metaverse is like the internet, is a paradigm built on enabling technologies, which we have today, which enable both building in the metaverse and operating, but also accessing the metaverse by consumers. And the more we move away from attaching it to specific companies or even to a specific technology, the more we try to understand how additional experiences and more capabilities enable more richer experiences for customers, both in iGaming and in other consumer products, the more adoption we will see in the mainstream. Yeah.
So Sean, you're building in the Metaverse and you're also building casinos. Do you agree with what they say, or what is like a common misconception that you encounter with your clients?
I've been asked this question so many times, and the metaverse as a term is something very abstract. It's why when we attempt to define it, you often hear more than one definition. I really love Kim Neville-Steen's definition, a grounded, theory-based approach towards defining the metaverse, which tries to identify key pillars that you would need to be able to achieve this abstract, somewhat spectrum of different key technological pillars you need to move towards that. It's kind of like the internet as well, which is where I would agree, where it's more like a North Star, and you have fundamental pillars with regards to what could make that space work, such as being dynamic, having sovereignty with regards to data ownership, having some degree of decentralization. These are not just tech pillars, but they're also, you can say, value-based pillars that we would like to move towards. And where we are today things are a bit convoluted. We're still far from being able to achieve that vision. Just like we're in the eyes of many people from the 80s and 90s would say, we're still far from achieving the main interoperable vision of a free internet. So it's with regards to casinos, I would attempt to separate them. I feel that the main premise we need to be looking at is 3D and kinesthetic movement and kinesthetic interactions and what that means to a consumer level-based interaction. And then looking at the metaverse as a term as something that we should remind ourselves of the values and the technologies we should be investing in and building in to have a co-owned space.
That sounds all like intriguing, and all of you, like I love those definitions, and clearly you have a great expertise, but really I want to get to the point where the rubber meets the road. Like if I'm a legacy casino, and I believe many of you people in the crowd here, you come from what I call the legacy world that is not yet on the metaverse. Not yet, but maybe in the future. So what would you tell those legacy platforms? What challenges? Like you have some key indicators, but what are the key performance indicators that you can combine with legacy systems and the metaverse? That's what I want to hear.
So I'd like to address a parallel where at one point we went from going to the store to online shopping, and we stopped buying physical books and started buying ebooks just because for various reasons, right? And not to say they still have their value, physical books. Certain people enjoy that value of the experience. Other people, for various other reasons, practicality, efficiency, environment, sustainability, etc., choose to go that path. I would draw that parallel as in metaverse casinos. You can provide customers with a much more tailored experience. You can provide them with many more possibilities for interaction beyond just the actual games. As an example, the four of us could be sitting in the same metaverse casino and seeing something completely different tailored to our specific preferences, to our specific needs. And actually, recently I read a very good paper on accessibility in the metaverse using AI, where for even people with disabilities, depending on whether they be visual, hearing, whatever the case may be, those can be addressed, and it can address a completely different public while offering a very tailored and custom experience that draws certain people. And focusing on these advantages and marketing them as such by saying, some people may not want to go to an online casino. It's not very immersive. They don't really feel like there's nothing keeping them there besides the actual potential of winning. In real-life casinos, many people maybe do not enjoy the in-person experience, the social experience, whatever the case may be. In the metaverse, you can offer much more tailored, a much wider range of possibilities for them.
And if I may add, I agree with what you said. I think the first step for any company, including mine, because we are a traditional online casino operator, is the actually strategy. Why we are doing this, why we want to open up a new space, what are the target audience that we want to hit. Because the intent, as actually fairly you point out, is different. There are part of the audience who still love playing table games with the commodity of doing it from home with a simple kind of screen. But then with the new generation and the AI that is powering all these technologies, there is an opportunity to type into a completely new type of audience who used to buy digital assets online. I mean, I have two girls, one 10 years old and the other one 7. They play Roblox, they play Fortnite, they want always to understand what's happening with ChatGPT and the AI. And they ask me to buy skins and coins and houses on Roblox. So I think there is a generation that is building up with a completely different intent. They want instant gratification. They want to have this immersive experience where they can project themselves.
Yeah.
And I believe that live casino can offer that opportunities of socializing in another space with different incentive-wise, marketing-wise, everything will be different, I guess. But yes, definitely.
They also want instant payment, probably.
Yes.
So how do payments work in the metaverse, Sabine? Maybe from Fun Token you have a...
Yeah, so most common is, of course, cryptocurrencies, and the most common used ones are on the Ethereum or on the Polygon blockchain, which our token is also based on. And of course, then on NFTs, like non-fungible tokens, which you can either earn through gaming, like through in-game achievements, you can trade within each other. Then, of course, the metaverse or the casinos, they usually shall also include other payment methods, third-party payment methods to get it easier onboarded, like to get the user easier onboarded with the metaverse, and because not everyone yet owns cryptocurrency, so it's also important to add fiat into this to get easy access, and then they can buy the tokens, which is usually used within the metaverse games and casinos, and of course also with smart contracts that handle in the transactions within games. So there are several ways on how payments and how the transactions can be conducted, but it's all digital. And I mean, it's still very early stage, and we will see which technology will be the forerunner. For the time being, it's mostly Ethereum. So
I have one question for the audience now that she mentioned it, and like this is a concrete challenge. How many of you have used a non-custodial crypto wallet? Like, raise your hand if you've ever used a non-custodial crypto wallet that you could use in the metaverse. It's not so many. I mean, all of you have probably a bank account, right, or a credit card. But a wallet for the metaverse, that is one of the barriers that you mentioned.
Do you all know what a non-custodial wallet is? Nice, okay. Because there's barriers to entry to this industry, and
exactly.
it's something you learn over time. Like even I know these two humans like the most around me. Like I've seen us grow with regards to our knowledge in Web3 over the years, just from communicating with each other every Wednesday over time. Like those barriers, it takes a while to get there, to actually know of the risks, to know of the volatility, to know how to protect yourself. And I think that's also quite interesting in that regard.
Even though I believe that to make mass adoption to the metaverse, it's super important to have the hybrid way of accessing to the metaverse, both with fiat and with crypto, because otherwise will never be adopted by the mass. So I believe a lot on platforms that are actually trying to embrace the new space, but step by step with what is called conceptual ladder. So it's like adding a little step conceptually to make sure that the entire mass can adopt the type of technology or payment in our case.
One of the first fun things we built at Metaverse Architects was the first Metaverse ATM, where you'd have a fiat on-ramp and you can just pay with your credit card. But on the point of onboarding, just to ask, how many of you have watched Black Mirror? Could you just raise your hand?
I love Black Mirror.
Now, have any of you watched Bandersnatch? Could you raise your hand if you've watched and played Bandersnatch? Like, for those of you that did, I think you'd know where I'm going over there. There's something fun about interactability, something cool about being able to shape your own story according to the input you give to an experience. One cool prototype we're working on Metaverse Architects, we just launched one of our live casinos, but we're also playing a lot with AI. AI, blockchain tech, and 3D immersive spaces are our three fundamental pillars as a company. And we figured like the reskinning of slots, for example, is something that's super easy to automate with artificial intelligence. And now we're also like pulling that out of our AI branch and plugging it into our 3D immersive space branch as well to kind of see how AI itself and large language models or GAN networks can really feed into the active development of 3D immersive spaces. But the most important thing there is that it's the human feedback that molds the space. So the idea is to have like slots that dynamically change for every user that logs in according to their habits and according to how they interact with the space. And when you have these large data sets with trillions of points of data that you can actively move and shift towards and tweak with RLHF, it becomes extremely interesting what kind of unique and personalized products you can build. And I think that's what's interesting about this industry and how it can potentially impact casinos in the short term and long term as well.
Sean, I just got to cut you here for a second because we are trying to get ready for live casinos in the metaverse. And you just mentioned that you built the first ATM in the metaverse. Like, 1 second, run us through this. How does this work? An ATM machine in the metaverse.
So it's kind of because of this, because we were organizing really big events and we needed to onboard people to ensure that they can pay with their credit card. So effectively, we partnered up with Transact. They're one of the largest fiat on-ramps in the industry, where effectively all you'd need to do is go up to, let's say there's a crypto payment where you are buying an NFT. And instead of necessarily having to have mana, for example, in your wallet, you can, if you don't have the ATM, you have to stay going to Binance or Coinbase, for example, and having to pass fiat and then sending it from RC20 to Polygon and then going on the marketplace. It's a headache. In this case, all you do is go up to the ATM within the space, you just click it, it opens up your MetaMask, and you just pay immediately with your already saved details through their platform.
With your credit card. So
Yep.
you're in the metaverse, and instead of all of this hassle with the on-ramps, with the ERC20, with the networks, you put your credit card, you're registered already, and voila.
We saved them about 30 minutes. So we shrunk the time for being able to top up your account and pass a payment from like 30 minutes to 2 minutes.
Is this something that could be like an option for FunToken to facilitate new, easier means of payments for onboarding in the metaverse, maybe?
Definitely, yes. I mean, as I mentioned, the on and off ramp is still a huge problem into the space in general, and most people still want to just earn crypto, trade it. They don't necessarily want to spend it because of the fluctuation. So it's still an early stage, and being able to integrate this fiat on and off ramp into metaverse, into casinos is still a necessity for success, basically.
Is that one of the biggest challenges for mass adoption, or what do you think?
So in mass adoption, I think many businesses, these are emerging technologies, a lot of them, and we're still in the infancy. Even with blockchain, we're still figuring out how to simplify certain concepts and certain systems for mass adoption. But we cannot wait for the technology, for the technologists, the purists, to start innovating for us. Yeah. And to bring it to the level where, as businesses, we can start adopting them. We need to drive that adoption, because technology serves business, not the other way around. Designing from a high level, the user experience that you want, I think that's a brilliant example of the ATM. You want a simple, seamless user experience for your customers. You design it that way, that's how I want it to happen, and then you adapt the technology to it. There are ways, as opposed to going and saying, what can this technology do for me? This is what I want to do, and then you figure out how to implement the technology in that specific way. And not necessarily saying, okay, I have to do this with blockchain technologies and with specific metaverse platforms or 3D engines or whatever the case may be, because that's what I have available to me. You say, this is what I want to achieve. You establish that baseline, those foundational technologies, and you bring in whatever else is necessary to build that meta layer, pun intended, to be able to bridge that gap and give users a seamless user experience, which will increase mass adoption over time.
In agreement. And I don't know how many marketeers there are in the room, but one of the marketing trends that we are facing is actually the shift from storytelling to story experience. So what he actually said is, let's enhance the player, our customers, to have a smooth experience based on their needs. So regardless of the blockchain or the headset that we need to use, which I don't think the metaverse necessarily needs a headset or blockchain. I believe a lot in typing into new spaces to augment the reality, to make sure that the players have a more immersive experience.
That sounds great. We are slowly running out of time, and I want to make sure that you, the audience, also have the chance to ask 1 or 2 questions. But before that, we have a closing question for all the panelists. So are you ready for that? One final question for you, for all of you. It is this: what impact will the metaverse have on the future of live casinos? Maybe we start with Sean, because it was the other way around when we started in the beginning.
I can prepare that while you're talking. Go on.
I think it's not just the metaverse, but we're going through a context-based revolution at the moment with regards to how quickly we can do things. I think what we'll be seeing is dynamic, personalized spaces. If I want a casino that's all about teddy bear pirates, the algorithm can build that for me. And that's the whole point, that the barrier to being able to efficiently construct spaces that lead to storytelling experiences for consumers is shrinking rapidly. And I think that's very exciting, where we can build spaces that tell stories, facilitate stories, but are also dynamically built for the user as an individual, not based on a catch-all solution that is benefiting the majority of our consumers, but each consumer as an individual.
I came to the metaverse because of the technology, but I tell you, I stayed there for the customized teddy bear pirates. That is, Sabine, what do you think? What will be the future of live casinos in the metaverse?
It's an interesting question. I would like to know as well. But I think it's going to be a huge industry. Like, why do people gamble apart from making the big money? They want to be entertained. They want to have like online and interact with other people. And if you're then playing as an avatar and you have like an avatar that is basically looking like a real person, then it's much more intense feeling of gambling, and probably the addiction rate is even higher. So there is also, of course, then like, but I certainly believe that this is the future of gaming. I don't see it in the next 2-3 years, but maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, that really like the metaverse gambling will replace the existing online gambling. For the time being, it will run parallel, and there will be more and more casinos. It's like starting to develop into it, which we do as well. So, but it's still, time will tell. But definitely a huge industry, and several experts predict that the metaverse has, at the end of the decade, has a market value of 5 to 13 trillion US dollars. So it is a huge market.
5 to 30 trillion.
13.
13. That's one with 12 zeros, yes?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I mean, it's often confusing for people. Do you know what the difference is between a million and a billion? Intuitively, 1 million seconds, how many days? I make it quick. It's 13 days. 1 billion seconds, how many days? It's a trick question. 1 billion seconds is 33 years. This is the difference. So, huge market cap. Oh my God. Razvan, please, the future.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. So, you know, whenever a new emerging technology or paradigm or concept comes along, every time we say it's gonna solve everything, it's gonna do everything. Same with blockchain, AI, metaverse. No, they're not. But they all have very specific benefits. It's why they exist. It's why we keep talking about them. And right now, in the current economic technological landscape that we find ourselves in, I believe education, iGaming are two of the main beneficial sectors that can gain benefit from something like this, where immersion actually brings value to both the operators and the customers. And it will not take a long time for us to see adoption increasing at an accelerated rate.
Valentina, you have the last word on the last final question. Before there's 1 or 2 questions from the audience, so if you're ready with a question, put your hands up.
So what's the future? I think more interactivity. personalization, ownership. I do believe that players will help to shape our brand voice, will create content, and last but not least, I think the trend of phygital, where the physical world is actually blending with the digital world, is just behind the corner. So I envision a live casino experience where you can play online and redeem your cards or entrance for the land-based casino, and vice versa. When you play in a land-based casino and then actually use or redeem your virtual coins or your bonuses also from the digital device.
Yeah. I love this like analogy that it goes from the physical casino to the online casino to the live casino in the metaverse, right? That's what you see with the personalization.
Definitely.
Oh.
Yes.
We have 1 minute left for 1 or 2 questions in the audience. Are there any questions? If there are any questions, now you can put your hand up and somebody will approach you with a microphone. No questions? There's a question in the front. Can you maybe, is there a microphone or? Well done.
For all of you, how do you see the future of the metaverse overall? Because even the biggest supporter of metaverse, Facebook, I think they forgot it about that one. Because we have a craziness.
I can take that. Go ahead. No, I believe that one of the misconceptions of the metaverse is the fact that at a point we believe that Meta, so Facebook, become the metaverse. Is not the case. There was just a lot of confusion and the misuse of this term. There are nowadays several platforms, startups, building up very solid infrastructure to allow, with a simple API and integration, a traditional like casino, to open this space into the virtual world. So just yesterday I was talking with a startup called Triumph. They're actually now in the hot seat on the main stage. And they provide an actual product where they can rendering and design 3D spaces in order to transport your brand elsewhere and perhaps target a new type of audience. Yeah. So I believe...
If I may, totally, I don't think Meta is the biggest supporter of the metaverse, to quote you. I think you find those people on GitHub. There's so many open source repositories that are just trying to build infrastructure focused on the decentralization of information. I'd rebut you and just say, we haven't even achieved the full vision of the internet yet, where we're free from the limitations of service providers or any degree of centralization or censorship in that open space. So it's very easy to look at a public company that has made this big move and be worried about what this might mean, especially if you learned about the term as a consequence of them rebranding themselves for this new vision. However, I feel very passionately about simply stating that the metaverse is a very abstract term. We chose that as the name of our company before Facebook rebranded to Meta, because the underlying fundamental values that it represents are oriented around digital sovereignty, decentralization, freedom of expression, and building in a decentralized fashion. Meta hasn't always been good at representing that, although I take my hats off for what they did with React, for example. So I think from the public sense and the marketing sense, there's always misconceptions. From the tech sense, software and hardware side, we still have a lot more work to do. But the biggest supporters of these values are found on GitHub, and they are incredible human beings where they're just building repositories on repositories of frameworks and tools that allow us to have the checks and balances we need for a better, more open, decentralized internet.
How many of you know the company Palm?
Palm?
It's not really a household name. Early 2000s, they went all in on smartphones. They died a few years later. Wrong time, wrong way, wrong method, wrong product. If Meta failed at this, it doesn't mean that the concept fails or the technology fails. We may come back in a few years and say, oh, remember when we used to call it the Metaverse?
I love it. Let's wrap up with that question that kind of got existential for the panelists. But thank you so much, and we're wrapping it up.
Thank you, everyone.